I think it's safe to say that colors elicit emotions out of us. I know, grass is green observation, but it's true. Album covers is an extremely important aspect of how an album is perceived. You can have a 10 out of 10 masterclass album and consider it album of the year, but if the cover looks like this, what emotion am I supposed to feel from this? This is why the colors of an album cover can be just as important as the album itself. Take, for example, the color red. This color can elicit emotions of lust, materialism, and power. So what album cover do I think conveys this best? Nah, I'm playing. The color red was such a genius choice for the primary color of this album because it goes into a lot of dark places in Kanye's mind. When you think of songs like Hell of a Life, So Appalled, and Monster, the red really elevates those emotions of rage conveyed when he's rapping. Funnily enough, when you listen to songs like Runaway, Devil in a New Dress, or Blame Game, you can really just feel the heartbreak in this man. The red really helps elevate the feeling that this album is about a man who can have everything in the world except real love. Now let's cycle from his best album to his last album, the Donda album cover. Yeah, the color black doesn't really do much to elevate the emotions conveyed in this album. When I think black, I think mysteriousness or something super serious. And yeah, there are parts of the album that do feel this way, but there's more parts in this album that don't than do. And contrary to popular belief, I do not think the Rainbow album cover was the best choice either. There's just too much going on in terms of the colors, and while yes, this does do a good job encapsulating the feeling of the high points of this album, such as Believe What I Say or No Child Left Behind, I do feel like it has the opposite effect, in that it doesn't do a good job conveying the feeling of those more serious tracks. Trust me when I say this, but when you listen to Life of the Party with this album cover, it doesn't have the same effect. The album cover that I personally think conveys all the emotions and themes within the album would be the Painting one. With this being Kanye's final album, the heavy gray is what sticks out the most, which gives feelings of restfulness. The stronger emotions you can get from simply just these colors would be grace, which would make sense because this is a Christian album and it does have themes of God's grace highlighted in tracks such as No Child Left Behind, 24, and Keep My Spirit Alive. These colors really help elevate the overwhelming feeling God's grace has had on him. Aside from this, you'd also get this strange feeling of melancholy from this color, elevated from some of the darker tracks. And this bright red color here is pretty much just used as an intensifier for these emotions, just elevating any feeling that you would have already had towards these songs. You see what I mean when I say these colors have feelings? Enough of these reds and these Kanyes, let's talk about these greens and Tyler. Now, green can mean a whole list of things, but one feeling I get whenever I see Tyler use the color green in any of his album covers is the feeling of growth. Wolf is supposed to be a therapy session for his Wolf character. Flower Boy is about Tyler finally opening up on who he really is and taking music more seriously. And Chromacopia, well, this uses an extremely dull shade of green, so I'm saying it still counts. Also, my Chromacopia shirt is green, all marketing for this album is also green, so it counts. Straying away from hip-hop album covers, however, let's look at an album cover that is literally colors. Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. With the album's primary theme being about the madness that goes on in a normal person's head day after day, struggling with stuff like greed and anger, these colors do a good job presenting that. The rainbow symbolism is made to be interpreted as its own color, and it seems to represent the emotions we see on the surface every day. However, the backside of the pyramid is insanity. This white line literally represents the light that we cannot see, but within the context of the album, it's the emotions we can never see. Now let's talk about the color blue. Now let's talk about the color yellow. One thing I've noticed is these real high energy album covers using heavy yellows. De La Soul is really good at using these more saturated colors to illustrate to the viewer that what they're getting into isn't your average hip-hop experience, but it does keep that high energy and tone that you'd expect. I could keep going, but I feel like I'd be dragging the topic and make it boring for y'all. I hope that y'all at least learned something of value to better appreciate the album covers more. Something to brag to the kiddos about in the schoolyard. Anyways, I really do need an outro, so... 小红书